When I was out for a walk last night, I saw a child, maybe about 4 or 5 years old, running along the grass towards me. And following at a growing distance was an older lady. And as I passed the lady, she smiled one of those kind of rueful smiles and said, "I wish I had half his energy." I smiled back, and she picked up her pace to catch up with what I assume was her grandson. Now, some of you have walked in here today having had a great week with much to be thankful for. And some of you, I know, will have come in exhausted, not from running a race or cycling over Scotland, but from running and dealing with life. You're weary from pushing through the same struggle week after week, feeling like you're climbing uphill and getting nowhere. And the truth is, when life wears us down, it often wears down our faith too. Maybe you've been working hard to make ends meet, and that unexpected bill comes in that makes your heart sink and your mouth go dry, and you wonder, how am I going to do this? Is God really going to be able to provide? Or you're pushing through another day in a job that you love, but which is really draining the life from you. And you start to wonder, am I even making a difference here? Does my work matter to God? Maybe you're caring for a loved one, trying to be patient, not losing it, and you think, if I had more of God's Spirit, then shouldn't this be easier? Or you started a Bible reading plan back in January, but life got in the way and you just quit, and you feel guilty, like maybe your faith isn't strong enough. Or you're trying to forgive someone again, and it's harder than it was the last time. And you wonder, how many times can I do this? And do I even really want to? It's not always the big crises that test our faith. It can be the slow drip of everyday perseverance, the small frustrations, the repeated failures, the quiet disappointments that whisper, is all of this worth it? And it's right into that very place, when we're weary and faint-hearted, tempted to doubt God's goodness and presence, that Hebrews 12 speaks. Run with perseverance, the race set before you. Look to Jesus. Now, when Hebrew talks about a race, it's not talking about a fun jog through the park. The word literally means a contest or a struggle. And the church he's writing to knew all about that struggle. They'd endured public shame, lost property, some had been thrown in prison. They were tired. Some were wondering if it was worth it to keep following Jesus. The temptation was to drift away and to go back to what felt safe, or maybe it felt easier. And into that exhaustion and temptation, Hebrews says, don't quit. Keep running. Persevere. But this isn't about sprinting, it's about staying faithful to Christ till the end. And to encourage them, that word encouragement, keep going, Mama, the writer points back to God's people across the centuries, those who ran their race and finished. Not because they were strong or had a good constitution, but because God was faithful. In Hebrews 11, we sometimes call that the Hall of Fame, of faith. We've already, the section just before the one we read, we heard about Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Moses. They've already been mentioned. And then we've got this image of the Red Sea, Israel being trapped, Pharaoh's army behind them, the waters before them. They'd been complaining. They didn't actually have the faith for this. But God made a way, and by faith they walked through. And in Jericho, the walls fell, not because Israel had military power, but because they obeyed God's strange command to march in silence. Rahab, she was an outsider, a prostitute, but she trusted the God of Israel and chose to do the right thing, even when it could have cost her her life, and she was saved. And then the writer accelerates and gives us a list of names and the amazing deeds for which they became known. Gideon, Barak, Samson, David, Samuel, the prophets. We're told some conquered kingdoms. They put out fires. They shut the mouths of lions. Others were mocked, flogged, stoned, sawn in two. It's a list of triumph and tragedy, a list of victory and of suffering. And we know that faith is not a guarantee that everything's going to go well. Sometimes faith does mean overcoming, and it will. Sometimes it means suffering. And in both cases, faith clings to God. And as Hebrews tells us, although none of them received the fullness of what was promised by God, they still persevered and lived by faith. They lived in faith in God for the future, trusting in his faithfulness for what is yet to come. And then Hebrews 12 turns the lens towards us. Since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us run. When you imagine that cloud of witnesses, I wonder what you think of them. I think for some of us, instead of seeing them as a crowd of witnesses standing on the road cheering us on, as we would for any runner in a marathon, we may be more likely to think of them as a heavenly audience staring down, maybe grading our performance. We're being watched. You better get it right. But if we do that, we're in some way missing the point. They're not actually witnesses of us. They're witnesses to God's faithfulness. Their lives testify, it's possible. God kept me, and he will keep you. They're not shaming us from the stands, they're cheering us on. They're saying, don't quit. It's worth it. In this last couple of weeks, I have been, in my family, we have a family WhatsApp group. And my brother, who's now up in Shetland, has been preparing for a new shed to be built. His other one blew away in a storm in Shetland. And their house is kind of on a slope. So he's had to make it level for the shed to stand on. And in this WhatsApp group, he has been sending us pictures of bit-by-bit progress of this task that he's taken on, to dig a foundation, to put cement in the bottom, so that he could then build up this wall. He's not a builder. He's never done it before. But he's seen my dad do it. And part of that project, as he was giving us these pictures of what was going on, of the challenges that he met when he was exhausted trying to mix cement just with a shovel and a bit water and mix it all on a board. His neighbour come along and says, "Oh, I've got a cement mixer." Oh, that would be handy. So he was given the cement mixer and that helped. And then he had to buy certain tools to make sure it was level and all of these things. And as he's putting in these pictures on the WhatsApp, he's saying, if my dad were here, he would be saying, do it this way. Don't forget to do that. Remember to do this. And isn't that a wonderful illustration of what it means by this cloud of witnesses? These ancient stories that we have from the Bible come into living memory when, I know you will all have stories of that, of people that you have known in your lives who have shared stuff with you, that have given you the skills, not just the skills, but that just if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing right, keep going, you'll get there. No, there's always a way to fix it. That kind of attitude that we inherit from the people around us that speak into our lives. And as well as these witnesses being there to encourage us on when we are weary, we also have the opportunity, those of you who are not having a tough time of faith at the moment, where things are going well, you can come alongside other people and encourage them in their journey of faith and the challenges that we face in life. So how do we run well? Well, the writer of Hebrews says, let's throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. We have to take time when life is challenging to think about, why is this heavy? Why is this hard? Is there anything that I can do to make this easier? And usually it's about sitting down, coming to Christ and saying, this is hard, help me. Something as simple as that. Fixing our eyes on Jesus. And as we come to that bit about fixing our eyes on Jesus, We think about the saints around us who have fed into our lives and given us that encouragement to keep going. But we also remember the words of Jesus, the one who says, "Never will I leave you. Never will I forsake you. I am with you always." When we're running the race of faith, the race of life, perseverance and endurance are important. It's not about speed. It's not about getting it perfect. It's about knowing that in the midst of it, Christ is there when we need wind in our sails. There are long stretches where every step is a decision to keep going. And sometimes to keep on going, you actually need to stop and rest so that you can keep on going. And we know that all things are possible because of what Christ has given for us on the cross. So we look to Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, the trailblazer who carved the path before us, the one who brings our faith to completion. Why did he endure that cross? For the joy set before him. And we know when we're in a hard place, we look to the one who's been in a harder place than us, knowing that he was doing so to fix his gaze on his Father, knowing that he would have the joy of redeeming his people, saving his people, helping his people, glorifying the Father in the joy of resurrection. So when you feel like quitting on a day, consider him. Look at him. When life and faith feels too heavy, look at him. When you're worn down by the drip, drip of everyday life, look at him. But he doesn't just model endurance. He empowers our endurance. And he's not waiting at the finish line with a clipboard. He's running with you. He's running for you. And he's saying, keep going, I've got you. So how do we live this out? Let me give you 2 simple practices for the week ahead. Name the weight that's holding you down. Sit with God in prayer and ask, Lord, what's one thing that's slowing me down? What's one thing that I need to lay aside? And then fix your eyes daily. Each morning before you rush into your day, consider Jesus. Each moment when things are tough, consider Jesus. Faith isn't about running perfectly, as I've said. It's about running one step at a time, one day at a time, with your eyes fixed on Jesus. You're not alone. There's a great cloud of witnesses surrounding you, testifying that God is faithful. And above all, Jesus has gone before you, enduring the cross, despising the shame, seated at God's right hand. Drop the weights, fix your eyes, run with endurance. And when you grow weary, because you will, consider him, for he's faithful, and he will see you through to the joy set before you. Amen.